Hey everyone. Cool, awesome. I can see my slide on the screen, so we can get started. Super excited to be here. It really is an honor. It's my first time giving a talk to a conference this size. So wish me best of luck. The title of the talk is Code Review, a software engineer's best friend, which means we'll spend the next 30 to 35 minutes talking about, well, obviously, code reviews and why I think they're software engineers' best friend. Before we jump into the details of the talk, I would like to take a minute or two and tell you a few things about myself. The name is Goce. I'm an Android developer based off of Washington, D.C. So it's 9 a.m. here in the morning, having my cup of coffee. But for some of you, the conference might be ending. For me, it's just starting. I've been working with Android since 2014 for a small home and automation company called alarm.com. I started as a junior developer. I transitioned through all the senior roles, and I currently lead a team of 4 iOS and 4 Android engineers. Part of this talk is motivated by the effect code reviews had on me throughout my career and through each stage of my career, and how they affected me as an engineer. So what do we have on the agenda for today? I divided the talk into 4 sections, pardon. The first we'll formally introduce code reviews. We'll talk why they're important, why we use them. Once we've talked about code reviews, we'll in the second section we'll talk about junior developers or fresh college graduates and how they are affected by code reviews. Then we will transition to how team leads can use code reviews to train and grow their team. Basically, how to effectively use code reviews. And finally, I'm going to share some of my best practices with you. With that, let's get started. So what is a code review? I'm just going to read out this definition because it's quite nice. It says a code review is an activity in which a developer, other than the author, examines a software deliverable for defects and improvement opportunities. Well, these are all fancy words for code review. Is basically a tool that you can use to catch bugs early in the development process. Why would you want to do that? Well, the sooner you catch the bug, the easier it is to fix it. It's also less costly to fix it, the less man hours you need to do it. So the sooner you do it, the easier it is. But also with code reviews, you make sure that the code that you write or the code that's written in a particular company, which might have thousands of engineers, it follows the same standards and it follows the same code formatting and industry standards, which makes the code very easy to read. However, I don't think code reviews are simply a process for catching bugs early and making sure that your code is following standards and so on. I think code reviews are also a powerful teaching and interaction tool, and I'm going to use the next few slides to show you why. Well, that was the formal definition of code reviews. Here you can actually see the not so formal definition of code reviews. For those of you that do not know what the Boy Scout rule is, it actually states that you should leave the campground in a cleaner state than what you initially found it, so that the next set of campers, finds a place that's clean and where they can easily camp. So do the same for code reviews. I spent some time searching last night for some interesting facts about code reviews, like when they actually started existing and why we started using them. And I found a few interesting facts that I'm going to share with you now. So I was looking for the very first code review that was ever made, and this is what I found. this is a very rare picture of the first code review. I'm not very religious, but I think in this picture, you have Moses with the 10 commandments. And it seems that he is getting his pull request reviewed. And judging by the look on his face, he's not very happy with the comments that he's going to get. So he'll probably spend a lot of time addressing this, addressing the comments in this PR. Going back to newer times, on the left side, you can see a picture of Margaret Hamilton, who was the lead software engineer of the Apollo mission. The Apollo mission is the group of people that took the United States to the moon. And on the left, you can see the source code that was used to take the vehicle to the moon. A couple of interesting facts that I was able to find were, they say that the source code has 65,000 lines of code. I don't know, that huge stack of books looks more like 65 million to me, but I'm not really sure what size font they used and how they printed those things. No files without comments, so that's great. And 30,000 lines contain at least one comment. Also, obviously, you can see there's only one person opening this pull request, and this code was reviewed by 6 other people, which kind of makes me wonder how in the world did they review this, right? This code was submitted in 1969. Actually, we landed on the moon in 1969, so this is probably a few years before. So I have no idea how they reviewed the code. Maybe this is the only thing that comes to my mind. 1969, they probably didn't have many monitors, but I'm not really sure how they did the code review, but the code is actually available on GitHub today, and I can share the link with you guys after the talk if you are interested. And I spent a couple of hours the other night looking at the code, and I'm going to share some interesting facts, interesting things that I saw by looking at the source code. I noticed that readability is super important, and it was easy, even though I was looking at the source code for the first time, it was easy to just figure out what the things were doing. And if you are supposed to review that stack of books, you better write code that's readable. So even today, I think we should still be doing that. Doesn't matter that we use monitors to review the code instead of books. I saw some interesting comments in the source code, and you can see 2 of them here. The first one was temporary, I hope. But obviously the code that they wrote was not temporary. So whenever you write software, please keep that in mind. And this was kind of funny, burn baby burn. This was a comment about the function that was starting the main ignition engine, so pretty much launching the rockets, which kind of tells me that, you know, humor is essential for landing people on the moon, and humor is essential for any project. And most importantly, code reviews are a must. The Apollo mission was trying to win the cosmic race. It was billions of dollars worth of project. There was a lot of stake, and even though these guys were racing, they did spend a lot of time and going above and beyond to make sure that the code that they wrote is good. So I've actually noticed that it's not uncommon for small teams to overlook the code review process. And by small teams, I am talking about startups of 1 or 2 people, maybe 3 in the beginning. I know that I'm personally working on a project in my free time where I'm the only developer, so I can't really review my own code. But if my app becomes the next Facebook or Google, then I'll probably have to end up paying technical debt that I never intended to pay in the first place. So you might ask me, like, why small teams don't do code reviews? I'm not really sure what the answer is. Maybe they're trying to race with time and ship features as soon as possible, but sooner or later, as the size of the team grows, they'll start doing code reviews. I want to segue a little bit now, since we looked at the history of code reviews and what they are and why should be used. I actually want to talk about how code reviews affect those junior developers on your team, those fresh graduates that have just finished school and joined your team, or even the people that have switched jobs and are seeing the your code base for the first time. So what can we say about a fresh college graduates first? Well, they're super excited, of course. They've spent 4 years in college studying hard, paying tons of money to go through college, maybe even having a part-time job at Starbucks to pay for some of their tuition. And they're excited because finally it is the time to cash in that college degree and make some money. They've landed this job that has great perks, great pay, so awesome. However, these people are inexperienced. They might have done an internship or two, but it's different when you have a full-time job. So they've never had their code reviewed. Nobody reviews code at school, and the closest thing they've gotten to having their code reviewed is a final project where they get a passing or failing grade. So code reviews are super new to them. No school teaches you about code reviews, and no school teaches you about work ethics. And in code reviews, it's very important how the code review is done, because it might have a significant impact on the mental state of the fresh college graduate or developer. Everything's new for them. And an interesting fact is that as a senior developer or team lead, you don't have that much time to write code. I've noticed that in some occasions, most of the heavy lifting is done by junior developers. And as I pointed out in the previous slide, the probability of them making a mistake or not considering all the use cases is high. It is your responsibility as a senior developer to spend your time on code reviews. And it's possible that you're not writing that much code just because you're busy with planning, fighting with product and UX on how the application should look. But what you do end up doing is spending a lot of time reviewing people's code. And you have to make sure you do it properly, because if you do it wrong, things will go south and you'll end up with unhappy developers and unhappy team. People will leave their jobs. That's the number one reason why people leave jobs: bad managers. With that, I actually want to walk you through my first code review, the experience with code reviews in the beginning of my career. This was around a decade ago. I had just graduated and I had joined this small startup that had 2 senior developers. I'm going to call these 2 senior developers the bad developer and the good developer. The bad developer made me hate my job and I almost left my job, whereas the good developer is the reason why I'm standing here giving this talk. So it was my first day at the job. You know, I went through onboarding. I finally received a task. I spent some time working on the task, and I finally opened a pull request. And I assigned the pull request to the bad developer. A few days pass, and I get a set of comments. And this was probably the worst experience in my career. Of course, the code that I wrote at that time was not going to win any awards for the best code of the year. But I did the job as best as I could. I even wrote a unit test. Unfortunately, the bad developer literally destroyed me. He didn't even say one positive thing about my PR. What he failed to realize, and this is very important, he failed to realize that this was my first baby, and this was very important to me. So I needed a little bit of hand holding. I needed a little bit of trust. And he did a lot of things wrong. He used authority to resolve conflicts. He would frame feedback as commands. He would say, change this, this is wrong, do this or do that. So on occasions, it really felt like working for Gordon Ramsay. For those of you who do not know who Gordon Ramsay is, he is this magnificent and great chef who is coaching other chefs to become better, but he's very arrogant, and the way that he provides feedback is very negative. So if you've seen his show, you'll see that the chefs are very sad and not happy, basically. And that's how I felt. After a lot of back and forward, we ended up merging that PR, but the damage was already done. How did I take it? It was like my first or second month at the job. Well, I took all of this personal. I felt like this guy is attacking me. I felt like I was being judged, not my code. And I felt threatened. I started questioning myself. Can I even write code? I've spent 4 years in college, and am I no good? And finally, I started hating my job. I would wake up early in the morning, be stuck in traffic, do my best, only to be told you're not doing a good job, indirectly, of course. So after that small fiasco, I avoided the bad developer at all costs, and I started assigning the PRs to the good developer. And things were different from here on. He did things differently. He would tie comments to principles. He would resolve conflicts using third opinion. And I liked a lot that he would provide plenty of examples. That way it was easy for me to just copy and paste the code and learn something without too much research and Googling. And he also, most importantly, created this environment where I felt included. I felt like I have a mentor. I felt comfortable. I felt good about asking questions and even acknowledging that there's something that I don't know and I need help from him. So how did I take all this? Well, of course, I didn't take it personal. I realized that code reviews are not a blame game, and it's just a tool that can make me that I can use to learn things better, to become a better engineer. I felt included because he created this collaborative environment. I realized that the team owns the code, not me, and I'm not judged. The code is judged. And I started loving my job. I finally had a mentor from whom I was able to learn, and collaborate with. So this quote by Isaac Newton, it exactly shows how I felt about the good developer and the effect he had on me as a person and as a developer. Without him, I wouldn't be giving this talk, and without him, I would have probably switched jobs or even have a different profession. So it's very important who your mentor is. With that, let's focus a little bit on the mentors. But in this section, I want to talk about the team leads. Especially the good developer, what did he do right? What did he do different than the bad developer to make me love my job and the things that I do? Well, he had 3 simple rules. People like praise, give them praise. In other words, whenever they do something good, acknowledge them and tell them that they did something well. The code is owned by the team, not the individual, and love your developers, but do not trust them. I actually want to go into a little bit more detail in each section, so I'm not going to explain here too much. Let's start with the first rule, which is people like praise, give them praise. So I'm going to use this example or a metaphor to kind of convey the message that I want to convey. On this picture, you can see me and my girlfriend, and this was around Christmas. We were taking a walk, and after the picture was taken, we went to a restaurant to have dinner. This was pre-COVID time where you could have still actually gone to a restaurant and eat out. So Imagine if the restaurant was a pull request, and imagine that I am the reviewer and my girlfriend is the author. And the thing that we are reviewing is her outfit. Can you imagine what would happen if I only provided negative feedback? Or in other words, if I only pointed out the things that she did wrong? How would the date end? Well, I can only imagine how the date would end. Probably this would be the best case scenario. I cannot even imagine what the worst case scenario would be. So giving all those negative comments or pointing out what they did wrong is actually would have hurt our relationship. And similarly, in code reviews, if you only point out the negative things, then the author-reviewer relationship will be hurt. People can get hurt because they tie their own self-worth to the actual work that they do. So people work hard. Try to find at least one positive thing to say. You know, there's. I know that sometimes it can be difficult to find something, but there's always something. You know, great job on refactoring this. Thank you for writing a unit test. The code looks great. I'm sure you can come up with other ideas, and each code review, each pull request is different. So there's no opportunity for various positive feedback. But don't overdo it because you work with them closely. So sometimes it might become silly if you just do it on every pull request. Do it when it actually matters. Yes, we can. So the first thing that comes to my mind when somebody mentions President Obama is exactly this pose of him, you know, pointing his index finger in the air, saying, "Yes, we can." And I stress the word "we." Can you imagine what would happen if his campaign logo was "Yes, you can"? Well, he probably would have not won the election, right? That doesn't show true leadership, and it shows that, you know, it's your responsibility to lead the country, not mine. So similarly, in a team, as a team lead, there's no I in team. There's no word. The word "you" does not exist. Replace the word "you" with "we." Try to create this collaborative environment and this ownership environment, shared code ownership environment. If you say something like in a code review, if you say something like, "Can you change this line of code?" it implies that it's their responsibility to make the changes. But if you rephrase and say, "Can we change this line of code?" then this sounds like we are solving the problem together, even though the author of the code is the one that's doing all the heavy lifting, all the work. But it tells them that if they get stuck or if they need help, you're there to help them. You're there for them. So this is exactly what the good developer did. He made me realize that the code is owned by the team. And in fact, it is. Like if they write bad code and you don't ask them to fix it, they might get a different offer, leave the company, and the team will inherit their quote unquote crappy code. The last rule says, love your developers, but do not trust them. Just like you, your developers are busy. They might be working on several tasks at the time. They might be juggling several things at the same time. They might even be working from home and have kids. So it is normal for them to make a mistake. We all make mistakes, but it is your job as a team lead to catch those mistakes. And what I usually do is whenever I'm assigned a pull request to review, I pull the branch locally on my machine. And I use the IDE and GitHub to review the pull request in both places. I do this because sometimes, well, not sometimes, GitHub doesn't tell you anything about warnings, doesn't tell you anything about deprecated code. And as you know, warnings and deprecated code, it's only a matter of time before the warnings become errors. And I go even one step further. I test the changes locally. So I do everything I can. I spend as much time and dedicate as much detail as possible to catch the bugs early in the development process. And developers love this. They know that when they give me the PR, they know that somebody will go above and beyond to make sure that their code will not break anything in production. I actually want to share this video with you that kind of shows what happens when there's too much trust in the team. Hopefully the audio works. If it doesn't, there's not too much talking in it anyway.
Shit. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm reading.
So this is a team where they have too much trust in each other, or maybe trust is not the right word in this situation. There's probably too much laziness in this team. If your developers have no idea what they are doing, it is your job as a team lead to make sure that they do. So please don't ever say it looks good to me if you're not sure what the changes are. Do your best to figure things out and collaborate with your developers. They might actually explain things to you. There's nothing wrong in acknowledging there's something that you don't understand or you don't know. They might have spent hours doing research before coming up with this solution, and you're only just getting it. So the last section, I actually want to talk some of the best practices that I'm using with my team, and I'll just go ahead and share those with you. I strongly believe that code is better than words, especially with those junior developers. If I find myself needing to write a super long comment, I write a short comment and I provide a code sample. And if the code is a little bit big, I just create a branch off of their branch. That way we can review my changes together. And if they agree with the proposed changes, they can just merge them in their own branch, or they can just copy and paste the code. And that's a lot faster than writing a lengthy discussion and explaining things in words. So code is better than words. Of course, if you do end up using this, please give them the code that you write in the comment, make sure it's production ready, because if you just write pseudocode, well, not pseudocode, bad code, just to prove your point, they might copy and paste that, and then you might ask them to change it. And all this takes time. If the code is better than before, approve it. This is somewhat a controversial rule. I would say this rule is incomplete, not controversial. I think it should really say if the code is better than before, approve it. And I stress this, only if you have a process in place that addresses technical debt. If you don't have a process that addresses technical debt, don't approve the code. What we do in my team, we have a so-called maintenance week, where we rotate on a weekly cadence. So, a developer spends a week working on technical debt. He doesn't get any feature development. He doesn't do any work related to his or her projects. He refactors code. He or she will actually look at something new that we can use. For instance, Jetpack Compose is currently the hot topic in the market. So we would actually use this week to look at Jetpack Compose. or actually address technical debt, the tickets that we approve and revisit later. As a team lead, it's your job to promote clarity. If you are leaving a comment, make sure it's very clear whether with that comment, you want something to be addressed right away, or something can wait for later, or if something is nice to have. This is an actual comment that I have received from SpongeBob. He said possibly can be changed to, I mean, what does he really want here? Does he want me to change this? Is it a nice to have? Is it like, when does he want me to change it? Please don't do this. Please be very clear in what you are asking and why. The larger the request, the slower the PR. You can see that this is an actual screenshot of a pull request that I received. It has 64 changed files and over 3,000 lines of code added. It took me days to find the courage to even open this pull request, and it took me weeks to actually review this. Therefore, the longer the PR, the more daunting the PR is for the reviewer. The more focused the PR, the easier it is to review it. Therefore, please do your best to keep the PRs as small as possible. And developers like to jokingly say fewer lines of code, fewer bugs, and no lines of code, no bugs, right? But try to keep it to fewer lines of code. Patience is a virtue. When it comes to hot fixes, do not rush the review. I've seen this with new people. They'll break something in production, they'll quickly fix it. They're scared that they might lose their job just because they've broken something in production, and they're trying to fix this as soon as possible. It is your job to make sure that you are not rushed. I know that things are broken in production, but they can be broken for one more hour. Do the job right. Review the pull request with a cold head. Make sure everything's fine. Do not rush. Nobody has time for manual checks. If you have a code style that you use, integrate that code style file in your continuous integration, like Jenkins, Bamboo, whatever it is you're using. And have the build fail if the code format or code style is not met. If you expect engineers to provide public comments on public functions, then make sure everybody is doing it. And this helps you to have a unified code style that's easy to read. If you work in a company that has 5,000 engineers, then if everybody has their own style of writing code, it will be difficult to review the code, and it's a lot easier if the style is the same. And also, this helps you focus on the logic, not the semantics of the code. That way you don't have to worry whether a comment was added or not. You just focus on the logic, and that's it. So we talked about things that you should do. Let's talk a little bit about things that you shouldn't do. I would have loved to given this talk in person. Unfortunately, I can. And the reason I say that is because I would have asked for show hands of the number of people that are actually looking at the text and the number of people that are looking at the GIF. I bet 90% of you did not even look at what's written on this slide until I pointed it out. And I see GIFs in code reviews. I think they're super distracting. If you must add a GIF, I would encourage you to provide the link that takes you to the website that's hosting the GIF, as opposed to putting the GIF there. But emojis are okay. They're not moving images, so I love emojis. Another thing that I try to avoid is approve something I don't understand. If I don't understand it, I just ask for help from somebody else. It takes me a little bit longer, but It helps me learn new things as a team lead as well. And finally, please do not use abbreviations. Like at the bottom, you'll see examples that I see every day. Some of them are well known, like LGTM, but for some of these things, I don't even know what they mean. So if you save 3 seconds writing BAU instead of business as usual, you might waste someone else's time. So please avoid that. I think this is the last slide. Couple of final words. Spend more time on code reviews. Hoping team leads understand the importance of the code review and the fact that it is actually a tool for interaction and teaching and growing your team. Junior developers, code reviews are your best friends. Love them, embrace them. You'll learn a lot. Be open to feedback. And I hope you guys like some of my best practices, and I hope you guys start using some of them. And with that, I thank you for your time. It's the end of the talk. This is where we switch places, and you get to ask me questions. Feel free to reach out even after the talk. All right, let me see. So first question, with the experience you gained, how would you react to toxic reviewers' reviews like the bad developer in your intro story? Well, what I did was probably not the best thing. I started avoiding him. And I'm not suggesting that's what you should be doing. I would suggest be the change that you want to see. If you end up reviewing his code, then provide constructive feedback instead of negative feedback. I don't know. I've been thinking about this for some time. I wonder if I would have just sat down and talked to him and told him that I feel daunted and that his negative reviews don't help. I wonder how that would have reflected, but that's probably a good conversation to have. I think there's nothing wrong in admitting that this collaboration is not helpful. Maybe he's not even aware of that. He's probably busy. He's probably tired. So he's just providing you feedback real quick. This is bad. Change this. Fix this. Let's move on. Next question says, how would you recognize when we go too far in code reviews, causing a real overhead of communication? How do you avoid this and keep reviews effective? Well, I had a slide about if the code is better than before, approve it. As long as you have a healthy technical depth process in place. You can also acknowledge that this code can be improved, but we can maybe do it in another pull request. That way, it takes some of the load from the engineer, and also the code review doesn't turn into this massive discussion and ends up taking a ton of time, because at the end of the day, you have to ship code, you have to ship features. So you need to somehow balance that, and identifying what can be addressed later, it's one way of not making this humongous code reviews. How many reviewers must validate the pull request? Well, it depends on the pull request. What we try to do is have at least 2 people on the pull request. If you have at least 2 approvals, and of course, if you're touching code that's not really owned by you, and for some reason you must touch it, then you should probably get an approval from that code owner. But the general rule that I have is to have at least 2 developers approve the review. How do you approach giving reviews from a junior or middle level engineer perspective to a senior engineer? Just because they are experienced, just because they have a little bit more experience than you doesn't mean that they are better. you might be working on a feature that they are not. Well, you might be more familiar with some feature, let's say Jetpack Compose, for example, more than them. So I would say the roles should be flipped. If you really want to become a good lead, then you should not be intimidated by the role, and you should behave like a team lead and give them constructive feedback, and just like you would do with the other junior developer. When the team lead makes the changes while reviewing due to time limitations, what is the best way to communicate the feedback? Or should the developer always make the changes after the feedback? Let me read this again. When the team lead makes the changes while reviewing, determine what is the best way to communicate. I usually leave a comment saying, "Hey, I created this pull request. Take a look what you think. Let me know what you think," and I just post it as a comment there, and I provide a link, and that way we take the discussion in the other pull request. How is your policy on just leaving comments versus request changes? I'm not sure I quite understand this question. I try to frame feedback as requests. So I try to make the engineers feel that I'm actually saying, please make this change, and this is why it would be better. And when I leave a pull request that they can merge into their branch, it's again a suggestion. It's not something that I'm saying this is how we should do it. This is how I think it is better, and this is why. Okay, cool. Thank you guys for attending today. It was a real pleasure, and feel free to reach out if you want to chat more. Thank you.